Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I didn't check in with Kendra, are you good?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. All right, thank you so much. Great. We are going to start it off with our public hearings. We have a discussion and consideration of proposed amendments to the Richmond Town Code of Ordinances, chapter 5.44. We have a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
We'll go for a roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madden,
Yes.
Shano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right, so council discussed this, but is there any further council public before we go to the council comment? Before we go to the public? Nope. All right. Anybody from the public like to talk about entertainments or anybody online? All right, can we have a motion to close our public hearing?
So moved. Second.
Go for our vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Alashano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right, could we have an action on this item?
Yeah, motion to adopt the proposed amendments to the Richmond Town Code of Ordinances, chapter 5.44, entertainments.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? No. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I've got several proposed changes.
Yeah.
First section 5.44.010. I didn't think the first sentence was clear. I think it should read any individual or entity that wishes to have live music, DJ, concert, performance, band, or other outdoor public entertainment must obtain a license before doing so, period.
All right, any other comments or changes?
Yes.
You got more? Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Section 5.44.070 duration -hours. Again, the change to the last sentence, I think, should be clarified. I think it should read, the town council shall have the discretion to limit the frequency as well as duration of entertainment, period. Next, on indoor public entertainment, 5.44.200. Again, the first section, the first sentence, similar change to the other. I believe it should read any individual or entity that wishes to have live music, DJ, concert, performance, band, or other indoor public entertainment must obtain a license before doing so, period. Then in section D of that same section, there's this wasn't one of the changes, but there's a sentence at the end that says that I believe should be deleted. I propose deleting the sentence that reads, the town council may deny, revoke, or refuse to renew a license under this article only on the grounds that the location of the entertainment presents a danger to public health or safety. I believe there are other reasons why a license could be revoked or non-renewed. We shouldn't just be limited to that, so I would propose deleting that sentence. .44.230 public safety requirements. Again, just some rewording. I would propose the chief of police shall determine the number of officers or constables, if any, for the event, and shall control the number of persons allowed in the entertainment area of the building, period.
Could I jump in for a question? Not the one that you just went through, but 5.44200, where you're deleting the sentence that would enable the town council to deny, revoke, or refuse to renew a license. If it presents danger to the health and safety, would council still be able to revoke a license if that sentence is not there?
I think so, but I would
Refer to maybe our
refer to the
solicitor.
solicitor.
would we maybe want to only remove the part where it says if
In
it,
the grounds.
yeah,
How do you feel about that?
Well, first of all, there's nothing in the outdoor public entertainment that talks about refusal, revocation, or denial. I'm not sure why this is here. It was put there for some reason, obviously, so it's implied that if you grant a license, you can refuse to renew it, you can revoke it, or you can suspend it. You can take action on the license as the licensing.
You can.
I don't think you have to explicitly say that.
Okay.
And I think the reason this was put in here was to limit the basis upon which the council could deny, revoke, or refuse to renew. And I think there are more reasons than just that, and we should have the ability.
okay. That answers my question. Thank you. Any other council questions? Oh, you got
I have
more?
one question for Erin. There's a provision in here that says under inspections, under the indoor, if a license is granted for more than 30 days, the building has to be inspected by the building official and the fire marshal monthly.
I have no idea where the history of that came from.
Is it happening?
No,
Because I mean, I think that's
annually once a year.
burdensome to require someone who's, holding a,
So that should.
having bands to require that they pay for an inspection every month. It's crazy. So, I mean, I would be open to striking that, other than but an inspection is required at the time of application. So we don't need this at all.
My only inclination, and I'm not sure, doesn't hear the dates, maybe some of it does, is, Station Nightclub, a lot of those changes happened during that time frame.
Well, it was 12/6/05, so
Yeah.
it would be shortly thereafter.
Yeah, so. But initially, it was in there, so.
The-
No, it's not happening, so we should.
Problem with the Station Nightclub was that they were actually inspecting the place, and
you
Didn't
and
matter.
I- Correct.
so
Yeah.
it wasn't for lack of inspection.
No.
It was for,
No.
anyway.
Force it.
And so I would propose if, I would take out B. A says, that there has to be an inspection before the license is issued. I mean, you could put if the configuration of the venue changes, there has to be an inspection. Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, that you're saying that could be because of building code.
Right, which they would have to
Yeah,
have
they'd have to have it.
inspected anyway, so
Configuration.
it's gonna get caught up in the building code. So I think we can delete, so I would also propose deleting 5.44.210B.
We good?
Yeah, that's it, sorry.
Okay, making sure there's no more. Thank you so much for that feedback. We do have a motion to approve. I guess we wouldn't
Yeah.
mind doing a friendly amendment to make it as amended.
I will, but first,
Yeah.
Mark's gonna annoy with me, but if you could just go through the sections again that we're modifying. I just want to be clear what we're gonna be voting on to approve before I actually vote to approve.
Mhm.
Just real quick,
5.44.010.
okay?
Five point 44.070. I had another question, but I won't.
Sure.
5.44.200. 5.44.210B.
Yep.
5.44.230.
You go over 0.230 again, the public safety requirements.
Yeah, I just reworded it. Because it assumes, this section assumes that there's always going to be an officer assigned whenever there's a public entertainment. And I don't believe that's the case. So this basically gives the discretion to the chief. So it says the chief of police shall determine the number of officers or constables, if any, for the event, and shall control the number of persons allowed in the entertainment area of the building. And they get paid their hourly rate.
All right, I will amend my motion such that I will approve the proposed amendments to the Richmond Town Code of Ordinances, Chapter 5.44 Entertainments, including the recommended amendments by Council Reynolds.
Second.
All right.
Kendra, did you get that?
Seeing no further discussion, we'll go for our vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And myself, yes. Awesome. On, we have a second public hearing for proposed amendments to chapter 8.18, recycling and solid waste disposal, and section 8.18070, tipping fees. Can we have a motion to open this public hearing?
So moved.
I'll second it. We'll go for our roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And myself, yes. Any council discussion before we go to the public? All right, any members of the public on this ordinance change or online? All right, seeing none, hearing none, we'll make a motion to close our public hearing
So moved.
Second?
and go for our vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right, now on to licenses. Can we have a action on 1A, please?
Wait, then we have to adopt the.
Oh, yeah, sure, make an action on that. I'm sorry.
Sure, I'll make the motion to approve the proposed amendments to the Richmond Town Code of Ordinances, Chapter 8.18, recycling and solid waste disposal, and Section 8.18.070, tipping fees.
Second.
Thank you. All right, seeing no council discussion, we'll go for our vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And myself, yes. Now on to licenses. We have E1A. Can we have an action on this?
Motion to approve the incomplete victualling license application subject to RI Department of Health permit to operate a food service establishment as reviewed for application completeness on January 28th, 2026 for Chef's Cup LLC, doing business as Higher Grounds Coffee.
Second?
All right, any council questions? All right, seeing none, we'll go for our vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right, now on to E2. Can we do one motion for all three of these?
I think you could,
All right,
unless someone's got an issue with one of them.
all right. Can we have an action on these items?
Yeah, motion to approve the incomplete applications for refuse collection and hauling license, subject to confirmation of recycling plan on file for Rambone Disposal Services Incorporated, RPKK Incorporated doing business as RPA Waste Services, RPE Waste Services, and On Time Disposal LLC.
Second.
All right, any discussion? We'll go for our vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And myself, yes. All right, now we have discussion and consideration of an incomplete application for refuse collection and hauling license for CWPM LLC. I'll make a motion to approve this.
Madam President, that was the complete application, not the.
That's what it says. If I misspoke, I apologize.
Okay.
Clearly having one of those days this evening, so thanks for your patience. Yeah, so I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, seeing no council discussion, we'll go for a vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano.
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right, now we have appointments and resignations. Discussion, consideration of a request from Jean Nash for reappointment to the Recreation Commission with the term expiring January 31st, 29.
Madam President, motion to approve Jean Nash for reappointment to the Recreation Commission with term expiration January 31st, 2029.
Second.
Awesome. Seeing no councilor discussion, we'll go for our vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano.
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right, discussion consideration of a request of Robin Branowski, sorry, for appointment to the Conservation Commission with a term expiring January 31st, 29.
Motion.
He's looking at me. I want him to do it.
Okay.
No, you can do it.
No, go ahead.
You already started.
I already did one.
I will make a motion to approve this item.
Second.
All right. Seeing no discussion, we'll go for a vote. Counselor Dinsmore.
Yes.
Madnick.
Yes.
Palmigano.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And myself, yes. Welcome to the party. Thank you so much. Discussion consideration of Susan Gardner's request for reappointment to the Dog Park Committee expiring January 31st, 2028.
Motion to approve Susan Gardner's request for reappointment to the Dog Park Committee with term expiring January 31st, 2028.
Second.
Okay, no discussion, we'll vote. Counselor Dinsmore.
Yes.
Madnick.
Yes.
Palmigano.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And myself, yes. Consent agenda. Does anybody have anything to pull?
Yes. A through C, I have not had the time to review the minutes yet.
Okay.
No, but I was in a meeting. We can move it.
You can delay it till later in the meeting after executive.
We could do that. We do also have 3 counselors who are here waiting our time, so we could vote. I mean, I'm comfortable if you want to wait, if you want to abstain.
I'll abstain. That's fine.
Yeah?
I trust you guys.
All right, so I'll make a motion to approve 1A, B, and C.
Second.
We'll go for a vote. Counselor Dinsmore.
Yes.
Madnick.
Abstain.
Palmigano.
Abstain.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And myself, yes. Anybody else have anything to pull? All right, I'll make a motion to approve the remaining items, 1, D, E, F, 2, A, B, C, D, and 3.
Second.
All right, we'll go for a roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore.
Yes.
Madnick.
Yes.
Palmigano.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And myself, yes. All right. I don't know. Yeah, right? Boring is good. Boring is good. On to public forum. The purpose of public forum is to give members of the public an opportunity to address the town council about items not on the agenda. We ask you to limit your comments to 3 minutes. You'll have 1 opportunity to address the council during public forum. This is out of courtesy for others who wish to speak to ensure we have equal time for all. There'll be a timer that will go off when your 3 minutes are up, so you know to finish. If you need more time, we welcome you to submit your comments in writing to the town clerk to be included as a part of the record in the communications section of the agenda. All comments should be directed to the president and not any other person present. Do you have anybody for public forum in person or online? Sure, go ahead, Mr. Parker. But do please state your name for the record.
Good evening, Madam President, Gary Parker, Richmond. I know it's not on the agenda, but the discussion of the table of uses regarding the adjudicated or the decision to bring that to public hearing for the changes. I understand that the items that were made special use permit in previous table of uses are now going to be prohibited. And I think I've got that right. Just wanted to find out exactly, or just to offer maybe some thoughts, alternative thoughts we've been offering for quite a while now, as far as what the options would be rather than prohibiting. As you know, we've been looking at from the EDC perspective, and we've been looking at economic development from the fundamental basis of economic development, which is property rights. Property rights were established 55 years ago as an academic basis, like basically an understanding that property rights are the fundamental source of economic development. When we have everything, and I know we've talked about briefly in here, violations of the First Amendment for as far as takings, possibly takings under chapter titled or constitutional Fourth Amendment. Short of takings, it is possible for zoning to have a direct adverse impact on economic development, the way it's being done, i.e. outright prohibitions. What I would like to offer from an EDC perspective is, since it was special use permitting and the task of going through special use permitting specific criteria, which sort of was the problem there.
Mhm.
EDC has a tremendous number of contacts within the business community and the commercial community to provide subject matter expertise to yourself, to the staff, to the other boards to say, look, we, instead of prohibiting, we could find reasonable, creative crafting criteria to put appropriate constraints. One of the things I've learned from our solicitor, which I thought was something I didn't have in my scan, was the notion of just simply having nuisance laws. You know, the idea of let's not pollute our neighbors' wells, let's not destroy our neighbors' property, let's not cause undue hazard, things like that. I believe that an alternative approach could be found pretty easily to, instead of prohibitions, to say, let's find some special use criteria. And those could be actually placed in place pretty quickly. I mean, let's face it, we're now 2 years into the process where that thing has been sitting there. The EDC, we're known for our level of effort, and so we could certainly help with Miss Gillette and yourselves in terms of developing those criteria rather than simply putting prohibitions, because prohibitions, even if it's just a stopgap strategy, I know that prohibitions, we all know that once the thing takes its, gets into stone, it can be really hard to get that out of stone. And it creates the idea that we're simply going to prohibit things that we, previously special use permit. So just offering an alternative, reasonable strategy to an outright prohibition.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I just did want to offer like a second of clarity. It's not set in stone. We're doing it so the planning board can have more time to go through, and I think you mentioned it briefly, go through and create a special use. So if the EDC does want to draft a suggestion, report, recommendations, we'd love to see it.
We actually did. Actually, it was
Yeah,
presented,
I know you-
presented
yeah.
months ago. In fact, yeah, in fact, absolutely, yes, ma'am. It was presented months ago. But we could certainly dig even further into the details
Mhm.
and look at things, look at the most minuscule, because we could find, your EDC could find the people who can help inform the process to get it done right. And so that it has the, it actually has a smart look to it rather than simply a sweep. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Madam Chair.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, Gary, I mean, it might have been a mistake when we had the workshop a couple weeks ago to not have a representative from the EDC. Maybe we should have had a planning board, town council, EDC workshop. I think my recommendation is for you to get together with Phil, and when they're going, the planning board's going through the special use permits and the criteria, that the planning board and the EDC do it together.
We actually, so I actually sat in, sir, on those meetings, and raised my hand.
I think Phil went to you too, didn't he?
Yeah, and well, just as a point of very, very clear specificity, we invited Phil to the EDC meeting, and he kindly accepted. We discussed the principles behind there, and we actually see, I admire Phil for many, many things, but we see this economic development and planning model completely differently. Phil, in his experience, sees it as what's developed as the conventional planning school. Last 50 years or so, it's the idea that planners and the planning doctrine can actually create a town and lay things out. There's a logic to that. But the problem, Madam President and Mr. Maddox, is that that's almost like running a factory. It's the same mindset as creating a business. Well, if we had $100 million to say everything's going to go at the charity, everything's going to go in the flex tech area. Residential is going to be isolated, but we're really going to invest there. If the town actually had, and I know we don't, it's just not facetious, but if the town had the money to do this, to make the investments based on the planning model, well, then that would be a different kettle of fish. But we don't have the money. We don't have the tax base to just create this town. What happens is we set from Phil's perspective, and again, I admire very much so Phil, sets these ideas of zones, but then just sort of walks away and leaves it to the natural market. And we can't do that. The natural market actually has to take over and generate. There has to be a thriving element to that.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like adding communities. You just can't manufacture a community. Well, you just can't manufacture economics. The best way is to just simply get out of the way. And again, not making this up, but 55 years of economic theory, of modern economic theory, says property rights are the fundamental piece of that. And by putting prohibitions, even if it's temporary, it has the effect of squashing development. So, but I can see it from Mr. Denise's point.
Yeah.
But I think that the reality is such that we have to reduce the restrictions. The government that governs least governs best, that kind of thing. So anyway,
Yeah.
So thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, we'll dive into that further at the public hearing.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment or anybody online?
Does Callie have anything to say about his?
We might want to dive into it more at the public hearing. I think if she wanted to, she would raise her hand. She's not shy about that. All right, so with that, on to reports. We have town administrator report up first.
So my first item is I want to thank our amazing public works staff for the great job that they did during our recent storm event. This was a 10-year storm. We haven't had this size of accumulation in a long time, and they did a great job along with the vendors we brought in, as well as our public safety team, the police, EMA director, and the care on, and it was definitely a group effort. Also want to thank the public for their response and listening to the public safety warnings and staying off the roads, especially during, the travel warnings. That definitely improved our ability to get the roads plowed and repaired. I also thank for their patience as I believe, have completed almost every mailbox repair that was submitted accordingly. So the understanding that that is not done purposely. Snow is an amazing force, and especially when visibility is in play, you cannot see, and certain casualties of mailboxes have happened. So the town is working on making those repairs temporarily, and will make full repairs once the spring temperatures thaw allow. So again, thank you. Kudos to everybody who worked hard during that storm. We had a great team, and I also want to thank the public who supported our public works personnel and providing all the snacks and stuff. It was greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
So thank you. My next item is, it is part of the process of reviewing the budget and needs is town hall is in need of some exterior paint repair, especially our trim is more so needed as our siding is not in a material that needs painting, but our trim needs painting before we lose the material. And so part of the review of the budget is we have some remaining funds that we didn't utilize of ARPA funds, and while we cannot reallocate completely towards a different need, this meets in the same realm that we believe we can use that funding source towards that. So it's sort of a blessing to utilize that funding towards that. We do believe it fits the scope of the initial project we cannot reassign funding. So I just want to really make that clear that any unassigned ARPA funds will have to really meet within the definition that it was initially assigned for. It's too late for that. And whether we came in under budget and we can't utilize that, that's unfortunate, but we're trying really hard to utilize all of the funding. So I'd like to reallocate the remaining painting and carpet miscellaneous maintenance of town hall for the exterior trim, soft washing, as well as the shutters. And then we'll go out to bid to see the total cost so we can see what we need to match that, because we only have till December of 27 to utilize that funding. So
Okay, makes sense to me. Do you need us to have a motion to authorize that?
I don't think so, unless
Okay.
anybody's completely opposed to doing that and they could think of another painting project that would fit a scope.
Yeah, that makes sense. We'll go Jim and then Jeff.
I just had a question on a painting project. We've talked about this before. It's on town property. It's the painting of the lines on the pavement of the parking lot, which desperately need to be done.
That would be part of my recommendations that will be coming.
Would that be included in this cost?
I don't believe so. I think
Painting?
it is, but I don't
Did we check?
know that we're gonna have all the money we need to paint the exterior. Should we have painting of the parking lot come under and that not match it come budget time? Yes, this do, but yes, painting the parking lot lines and seal cracking is part of a recommendation I will have.
Yeah, I just would rather see the lines painted than the soft. I know the soft exterior wash, but if there was a swap out, if it was possible.
Well, we need to wash the thing, paint the trim, so it would be either painting town hall exterior.
Yeah.
And that's part of that, or
Okay.
yeah, we could allocate that, but I think there's something else that could
Okay.
meet that need too.
All right. Sounds like you're on it. Thank you.
Right, Counselor Dinsmore.
That was the same thing that I was going to offer,
Yeah.
was taking the soft wash off. Just because the way this building is with the roof on the front, it's very easy to, maybe we could do that and take that off. that's totally up to you, just my opinion. I get done in a day, and then, yeah, just add the, you said you were gonna like seal coat the parking lot as well as,
Right, we do
Reline?
need to
Yeah.
address some of the cracking before we, yes,
Okay.
but I don't believe we could fit into this scope, but it is part of a recommendation I'll be making for capital budgets for town hall needs. Because the parking lot needs to be seal
Yeah.
coated before we'd even.
Yeah, that makes sense. If we could at least see if it would apply, and then we'll weigh that when the budget time comes, that would be good.
Right.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank you.
all right. We'll go on to the next report, which is the Recreation Department report. Thank you so much, Robin.
You're welcome. Thank you. It's been a fun couple of weeks trying to figure out kind of what the needs are. But the first item I would like to work on is an April school vacation camp. One of the things we've heard from our residents is it's hard to find childcare during the school breaks. February break is a little too quick to get that done, so we're working on April. So today I'm coming to you to request approval to post for a counselor to run that, or camp leader to run that. And then counselors similar to summer camp, that would be based on the number of enrollees. We're still in the early planning of the camp, so I'm still working to find secure location. I will say we have secured the Richmond, Carolina Fire Station. If need be, I am working with the school department as well to try to secure Richmond, and if not Richmond, another location within the district.
Do we have any questions or a motion on this item?
So the camp is April 20th through 24th. Since it is our first camp, we are looking to keep it a little smaller than our summer camp. So we're thinking K through 5, about 50 kids or so. We'll see what the interest is and kind of take from there. But it's something that we hope to do on an annual basis for February and April break.
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Sure.
I'm assuming we have this in the budget, or you wouldn't be putting it forth to us. Can I just confirm and clarify and ask where it's coming from?
So the funding for this is we do have room within our budget right now. Also, the cost of the camp would cover the counselors, similar to what summer camp. So it's a similar idea for that. We do have some room in the budget for activities that we would like to bring in for entertainment. We also have materials from Math Matters, which is a program they held over summer. So we'd like to incorporate that into the program as well. And through Kate's, some of Kate's grants, she let me know today that busing might be a thing, item that we might be able to offer similar to what we did at summer camp.
Oh,
So
awesome.
Kate and I have really been working together to try to make it the most feasible for our residents.
Awesome. All right. Seeing no other questions, can we have a motion to approve?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the post of a seasonal staffing for April vacation camp.
And I'll second it.
Hiring.
Oh, and hiring.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go for a vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Our next item is our representative, Megan Cotter's here to give a legislative report. Thank you so much for joining us. I know this is a very busy time of year for you.
I'm glad that I was able to get here on time, so thank you for having me. I appreciate the time. Saw most of you only a few weeks ago at the omnibus for Chara House, so it's good to see you all again. So I took a few quick notes. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but just so you know what I'm working on. Obviously, school funding is always an issue. You see the governor's budget came out. Richmond's looking at a $330,000 decrease, which has similarly happened last year. And then, you know, we fight in the background for more funding. It is going to be a tight year. I want to be very clear with everyone that the goal is to equal what we got last year and not push for more. There's a lot of federal cuts coming down the pipeline that puts a lot of pressure on our state budget. So keep that in the back of your minds as we discuss funding. transportational, the regional categorical transportation aid, we are fully funded in the governor's budget. I anticipate that to remain always a fight. Would love to see that included in the school funding formula. I did want to touch upon the Blue Ribbon, the Blue Ribbon Commission. Just remind you folks that there was no one from South County on that commission. A lot of money was taken from South County. There were no dissenting voices. I have been assured that that is not going to happen. We certainly don't have an additional 300 million to spend right now. We're certainly not going to readjust the funding formula this year. So just so everyone feels okay about that. I do think that, getting more funds for regional schools, there is a much greater appetite now than there has been in the past. When schools dip below a certain enrollment level, they have to, by state law, look at what regionalization would look like. So Narragansett, South Kingstown, Westerly, mostly Southern Rhode Island, is looking at a huge decrease in enrollment. So there's a lot more communities that are getting on board with the legislation that I've been putting in for the 4th year. So when that comes up, I hope to see some town councilors come or write letters in support of that, because we certainly could use the additional funds. But I would incentivize the other school districts as they look at that, trying to figure out how to handle their budgets. It would be great. Working on making the green bond greener. Unfortunately, the governor's budget was lacking again. Hopefully this is the last time that we have to push for it, but there was no money allocated for farms or any type of conservation at all. So working again with Senator DePalma on that, making the green bond greener. So get your green clothes out. Affordability is the key word. Talking to constituents, as we all do, knowing that we are in a crisis right now for affordability. So I've been working with Senator Gu, with actually talking to New York on some utility work. Nothing set in stone yet, but still trying to kind of hammer out the language. But New York has some great models that they've been sharing with us. We've had a lot of meetings with them. So keep an eye open for that. I also have a tax deferment bill. The best way to describe it, so this would probably put a little bit of work on municipalities. So the way it would work is the treasurer would handle the program. Municipalities would send applications to the treasurer, opening a new fund. We're thinking 2 million. So it would be for seniors, disabled folks, and disabled veterans. So if you can't afford your taxes, you would apply for this tax deferment program where the state would pay the municipalities. And then when you sell your house, you pay back essentially a lien on your home, you pay it back with 6% interest. That's something I'm really excited about because I think that would help a lot of people. Sorry to have to put more work on you, Erin. But
Different office now.
I think
Sorry,
that program
Kendra.
would help a lot of our seniors, and I'm really excited, and I was really excited that the treasurer was on board with it. We've had several meetings to hammer out the language. I just got it tonight, so I was so excited to read it. But hopefully I'll have a bill number soon on that. I had a great meeting with the Lieutenant Governor's office and the Grocers Association this afternoon. I'm working on some affordability for the grocery store. I don't want to talk about it too much because we haven't hammered it out yet, but I'm really excited about that. And I think that it would benefit our small businesses and our families. And I'm excited for some future conversations. I connected some of our town council members who are working on things with Lieutenant Governor's office. And I can't say too much, unfortunately, but there's a lot of great stuff coming in the future. So be excited for groceries. Another bill that I'm working on, it's under the LMI. I'm not sure if that's the appropriate place for it, but one thing that we need to address at the state level is protecting our drinking water. And so as we build, that's something that's been not really part of the conversation. So I have a bill that I do not have the bill number for, I apologize. But it was written by Scott Millar, who is a brilliant constituent. He was on the Exeter Planning Board for 40 years, worked for DEM, worked for Grow Smart. Brilliant, and I'm excited about the way that the bill came out to get the conversation rolling on how we protect our drinking water while also with a lot of the building laws that have changed. I plan on working on some bills that I talked about last year that we didn't make it across the finish line, children with social media, just putting some guardrails in for our kids. A young Woodmansey bill, having our police officers carry EpiPens to keep folks safe. I have a bunch of other bills, but I just wanted to kind of touch upon the most important that would impact the majority of people here.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming out, both annually and as you said, as needed, whenever we have questions. Does anybody have any questions for Rep. Cotter right now? No? Okay, go ahead.
I have a question. I was happy to hear your comment about the LMI bill. And I think, if there's a way to incorporate into those statutes the realization that rural communities are very different than suburban and urban communities when it comes to dense housing, and to give us some more flexibility when it comes to permitting larger developments that include affordable housing would be terrific, because right now we have very little. And like you said, it's about protecting drinking water. These developments are all going to be running off wells. They're all going to have septic systems. That would be great. I know it's obviously a very important issue for the speaker. So but if to the extent we can get a little bit of flexibility, just to realize it's not a one size fits all. That's all.
And it's not an anti-housing bill, it's a pro-drinking water bill, is how I'm framing it, because housing is important. We all agree that housing is important, but also water is very, very important. There is a new, the Women's Development Corps built it's called Pine View in Exeter. They're my constituents. They run out of water very often, and it's a real problem, and it's not fair to the folks that live there. I get calls probably twice a month, and that's not the goal.
There's a similar issue in Hope Valley. It might be right outside your district because it's in Hopkinton, but they have a very similar issue. Something needs to get done. So thank you for that.
And then one last thing, because I'm here and I'm going to plug it because I'm going to. So every year I have a Show Some Love event. It's a free event. I buy dinner. It's at the Tilted Barn. It's February 24th. All I ask is that you bring personal care items, toilet paper, shampoo. It's open to everyone. All the proceeds go to RICAN and Exeter's food bank. So they really are in desperate need. So come have dinner, have fun, bring lots of personal care items.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Next up, we have another presentation, a report from the Rich Task Force. We have Andrew Pizzelli presenting on behalf of the task force. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. The Richmond Investment for Commercial Health Task Force was established to transform Richmond into a premier destination for growth, commerce, and outdoor recreation in Southern Rhode Island. Our first order of business, we had to determine a strategy for how Richmond can achieve growth by design while retaining a culture and community centered on rural and historic experience. This discussion led us to a key realization that Richmond as a whole lacked its own defined identity, not from a lack of town pride, but because often it's thought of as this collection of villages, which we all know well, Carolina, Wyoming, Shannock, Hope Valley, etc. There's tremendous pride in history in these locations, and trying to work against the grain and rebrand Richmond to the detriment of this village pride would be a mistake. Instead, we saw this perceived weakness as Richmond's biggest strength, both for tying together the local population and for how Richmond can position and market itself into the future. This led to the creation and adoption of a vision statement that seeks to weave Richmond's historic villages into a unified community. This vision is supported by 4 core pillars: community and connection, fostering pride through a unified town identity; heritage, safeguarding the history of mill villages to attract heritage tourism; adventure and recreation, leveraging the Wood and Pawcatuck rivers, hiking access, and numerous open spaces to attract eco-tourists and outdoor enthusiasts. And lastly, sustainability and growth, balancing commerce with conservation to protect the rural landscape. Out of this, in order to achieve this vision and following a SWOT analysis within the group, the task force outlined targeted action items to bolster Richmond's strength and/or address its threats and weaknesses. These action categories included walkability and traffic flow, commercial and retail viability, historic preservation, infrastructure, and risk management. And I'll just deviate from my prepared remarks for a second to say so many of the things that we outlined ended up kind of coming up throughout the course of this meeting anyways, which kind of ties into the what's next, which is that these action categories have been assigned to members of the task force, and they will work to investigate, provide analysis, and strategize solutions. Some work has already been done regarding these items in the past, and the goal is to welcome those thought partners in to gain their insights and findings so that from now on, everything can move forward on the same page. The task force aims to develop a comprehensive strategy for implementing this brand of Richmond that aligns with the task force vision. This would include both how the town markets and develops itself internally and external strategy for economic development. Long term, the task force will move from an implementation phase to a phase of sustainability. We believe that Richmond can serve as a sanctuary for those seeking adventure and tranquility, offering a rural lifestyle and unmatched access to New England's best. As a living tapestry of historic mill villages, Richmond can be a strategic center for families and businesses which value a balanced life and a quiet refuge that's close to everything, yet away from it all.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You have something
Any
else like
questions,
that?
comments, concerns?
No, I would just like to thank Andrew for putting that together. Certainly Jeff and I are the chair and co-chair for the task force. Andrew is one of the members, and he was the brainchild for this. So I want to thank you for all the work that you've done on this, and the heavy lifting comes next. But it's a great example of, and you're also obviously the chair of the Recreation Commission, so you are the Recreation Commission liaison to the task force. So thanks for all the work you do, and thanks for the presentation. Wonderful.
Thank you. Sure. Go ahead, Councilor Manick.
Can you just stick around for the next couple agenda items with?
Oh yeah, I'm not going anywhere.
Okay. And second, and I guess any of you can answer this. So this organization is only going to last probably for like another year or so unless we continue it after the next election. So is the anticipation that the council is going to get some things to prioritize and to work on and take actions with? That kind of the goal? Trying to see, you know, you guys
Yeah,
are working hard.
absolutely.
I like what I'm reading, and now I'm looking for, okay, you know, what is actionable that we can actually, you know.
I think after, now that we've really put a lot together, we're kind of entering that phase of, we've had meetings with, like Gary's coming from EDC, and we've worked with, what was it, Main Street America. There's some little things we're starting to do, and now that we've put together, like, hey, instead of talking about all the things that we want to see and want to do, like, how can we actually start to achieve things? And now, like, let's break up, let's do this, let's do that, and then let's come back, let's get feedback, let's start putting things in front of town council, let's start putting things in front of the public. Let's start saying, hey, this is what we're thinking, and having community events to get feedback. Because none of this, I mean, it's all great, but like 5 people in a room aren't going to decide, what everybody wants and is going to feel. And we definitely want to have the community's feedback on how they feel about, say, the direction we go in. If we're looking to develop Wyoming as an example.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in here and things that have been done before, so we're not reinventing the wheel.
Correct.
Just I find a lot of times it's, all right, all these things have been done. How do we actually do it? How do we go from what we want to do to how do we actually implement it?
Yeah, and not having analysis paralysis, either.
Yeah.
So if something's already been studied and done, great, let's get those people in, let's get those findings in, that way we don't have to repeat ourselves.
Yeah. Good. I agree. I had a similar or same question was, I'm excited to see what kind of recommendations come to council from all this. And even the recommendations that go back to your committees, because you're the liaison from the Rec Commission. And we have one from all these various committees that are then bringing ideas back to their committee for the full scope. And I actually had a question, or I guess a suggestion for the group, which would be, would it be wise to bring in the Affordable Housing Committee into this? Because they're not a part of it, or maybe one of our environmental groups into this as well. Land Trust and Conservation Commission are not a part of it either. So just to kind of expand upon what you're doing and bring in more people to the table.
Yeah.
I think would be helpful, even if it's just a meeting or two.
Yeah, anybody's welcome who feels like they could be a part of this, and that's kind of been like a rolling agenda item
Yeah.
on all our meetings is who are the other people we can look to bring in to meet with and talk with and just get, you know, all the thought partners and stakeholders involved.
Definitely. Yeah, I do get your agendas. I sign up for all of them and I see, I'm like, oh, good, they're talking to them. Oh, good, they're talking to them. So it's been great. Counselor
I
Palmigano,
was
go
gonna
ahead.
say, Andrew, you touched on it briefly, but you had mentioned how members of the task force have all signed up to kind of play point on each of the pillars. I think a good example of the questions that Councilor Madnick had, for example, with Phil Demesis, who had taken on a piece that is going to tie into infrastructure, which ties back to the planning board's efforts to come up with design standards, specifically about Wyoming. So that was an area of focus that we had identified. So he said, yes, it's something we're working on. It went back to the planning board. I know the planning board is actually putting for the budget request to have allocation for funding to get a design study. So that's where it's all tying together. So we're really,
Yeah.
we're helping to reinforce that in a positive way. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Awesome. I
Thank
think
you.
that's it. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
guys.
Next, we have our report from our land trust, Suzanne Payton. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. So I was here to respond to some of the questions that we had received about action items in the comprehensive community plan, and had heard that maybe the town council had some questions about some of the responses or some of the things that fall under the purview of the land trust and the responses that we had sent back to you guys, which is in the minutes.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm really here just to answer any questions that you have and to take back to the land trust any suggestions or thoughts or concerns that, that maybe are coming from the council.
Yeah. Sure, go
That would
ahead,
be
Counselor
nice.
Madnick.
That would be you.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go through the easy ones that are not controversial, and we'll leave the controversial one for last, so we can have a really sour taste in our mouth.
Oh, no.
That'd be-
Wait,
I'm just-
wait, I'm gonna get
um,
a blank piece of paper. Take notes.
all right.
Yeah.
All right, now, so one of the ones we talked about, like that came up was a network for bikes, and the response was, hey, can we ask the Recreation Commission to possibly develop a biking map for the town? And so when I was reading some of these things, and it'll kind of come up in my next question too, is how do we get the two groups together? Say, hey, one of the things, the Rich Task Force too, and also I want to have Andrew stay because recreation is really important for this community, and I don't know if we have a bike map for the town.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really great idea. And obviously, like that's not the land trust. That's not really your purview. So, like, who would own that? Just thought it was a fantastic idea to put something together.
Yeah, and it's in the plan. So I was trying to figure out, so we have maybe 500 acres, a little less, and a lot of our parcels are small. They're like 20 acres. But we have a couple of new 112 acre parcels, which we're working on putting trails in. But I know we have one person who's a trustee on the land trust that has said, for the most part, a half-hour trail, half a mile trail is not something that mountain bikers are going to want to, drive to unless it's connected to other locations. And so I think it would just take a little bit of time to figure out which trails are potentially, would be ones that mountain bikers would really want to use if they're off-road. But I understood this goal in the plan to also maybe include like bike paths on the roads or better improvements to, because a lot of our roads are really narrow and don't have really great bike lanes either. So I think it maybe would be a combination, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, that was kind of like a two-part question. And actually the controversial one had to do with the mountain biking, because I know that has come up in the past. And in the response, and we'll kind of just touch on that real quick, is I know that some of the land trust properties are deed restricted. And it'd be nice to know which ones do not allow for mountain biking, because I did go look in the comp plan. Like some of them are fairly small, but the Chan and Salia are at their, I think I pronounced them right. They're over 100 acres.
Yeah.
And then Kenyon is 62, Crawley's 84, Bradner 63, Scudder 65. And in the land trust, I mean, very small amount of land that's in conservation in Richmond. I mean, there's 8,000 acres in conservation. And I wonder if any of the other entities, the NGOs as well, along with the state, have the opportunity to use mountain bikes, because it's one of the things that has been requested. So that was like really two parts. One, are there any land trust properties that might be viable for mountain biking? Are there any non-land trust properties that are in conservation that could be viable for mountain biking? And then are there any other bike trails, and not necessarily off-road, like anything on some of our state roads or non-state roads, where we can actually put together a map of where people could cycle that's safe.
Okay.
I just thought it
So,
was a
I
good
mean, I
idea.
do know that people mountain bike in both Carolina, and I assume Hillsdale, I don't know with the Decompat Estate as much, and those are the largest contiguous patches of open space, and they have these old, actual larger roads and larger trails that are really amenable to mountain biking. But that kind of leads into the next question about the GIS mapping, because I
Yes.
think that I was gonna say that we do have some of our trail maps posted on Explore Rhode Island, it's exploreri.org.
Mhm.
And that's a statewide website where you can go and look at where there are hiking trails in the state. It's just exploreri.org. And right now, I realize only Bradner and Crawley are posted there, but we have trail maps for our other properties, and I hadn't realized that they hadn't gotten posted. And so we can definitely make an effort to post our trail maps there. And what they usually do is they write a little description of the property and they give directions for how to get to the entrance. And then they say what uses are allowed. So if there's horseback riding or biking or hiking or what uses and what's restricted. And so that would be one place to do that for the hiking side of it. But then I don't know, and I'd have to go through that site and look to see if how many of the trails at Carolina or the trails at like the Beaver River Preserve that's owned by the Nature Conservancy or any of the Audubon properties, how many of their hiking trails are listed there, and go through and figure out which of them allow bike. It's just would be a process that someone would have to undertake to try and cobble it all together. And then I don't know if you have anybody in mind cobbling it together, and then through the Rhode Island Land Trust Council, as a member of the statewide Land Trust Council, we do have access to GIS services. We already have trail maps for each of our properties, except Chan, which doesn't have trails yet. We're working on that. But, we could try to, just a thought. It'd be nice to know kind of what the goal would be, if it would be to ask someone to try and compile all of those shape files of all those different trails and figure out where the gaps are and how you would connect them. It just sounds like kind of a big task.
Yeah, do you think the property owners themselves would be willing and able to take that on if you poked them a little bit, like
I don't
the
know.
Nature
I mean,
Conservancy, or, they're always sharing Beaver River Preserve. It seems like one of their favorite properties. So I don't know, maybe they'd want to have it up there if it's not already.
I mean, we certainly could reach out we work really closely with all of the different conservation organizations on the land protection side of it, because that's really where we focus most of our effort. And then trying to make sure that we're providing as much opportunity as we can on the lands that we are responsible for. But I don't know or have any control over sort of whether they have the map, where they're posted. But I could certainly reach out and just ask them which of the properties allow mountain biking and if they have existing trail maps. We could see if we could find someone to take that on.
Yeah, they just might not be aware that it's not there. Just like, you said you weren't aware it's not there.
Yeah, that's why it's in the comp plan, because that was one of the ideas that came out of the last survey and then discussions with all the boards and commissions was, hey, we want to be able to advertise these recreation opportunities in our town. And I think what happens a lot of times is when everyone's responsible, no one's responsible, and it's no one's fault. It's just there's no one lead, because all the groups have different responsibilities. I think it would definitely be helpful. Actually, just reminded me, I thought a few years ago, the land trust developed a website. Is that still active?
Good question. Our own website, I do not believe that it is. I believe that, I don't believe that it is.
Somewhere, because the town just updated their website, and
Yeah, it looks
you've
really good.
brought up a few things now on exploreri.org and then the RI Land Trust Council. And I'm almost wondering, man, we should have that linked on our website under your area already.
Yeah, we
So
could
people can
definitely
find it.
add that to the existing website. Yeah. So that would be one thing, would be to have all of the ones that we have mapped added and then have a link.
I think that rolls right into what Andrew was just stating, the Ridge Task Force.
You do have your own website, so.
Yeah, but when it hasn't been updated in really long.
We can link it to our
That
current.
can't be us. That's Richmond. Is that Richmond? It's like, that's a great photo, and I don't think that's us.
We could link it.
Just,
Yeah.
yeah, fun fact, we've had people call us sort of like laughing that they had reached out to the Richmond Land Trust to ask for permission to hunt the property and got a really nice response from someone in Virginia that used to live in Rhode Island that was like, I love Rhode Island, but I can't help you. Call this person. Yeah.
It's on the town's website.
Yeah.
Could I just ask a quick question?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Susan, you mentioned, Chan, that you will have trails there. Does Scudder have trails right now?
Oh, Scudder does not.
Will it have trails or no? It's 64 acres, 66 acres, I think. It's a good sized property.
Scudder.
64.
That's one right down.
Yeah, no, but
Yeah.
I don't, is it big? Oh, yeah. So right now, so there's a little tiny bit of it that's right on Route 112.
Yeah, the field.
Yeah, the little field, and then you have to go back on, we have an access easement on that road that goes to a couple of other homes. And then the property is back there. So other than that, it would be over by the blueberry farm. We would have to, there's a stone wall, we would have to create an access there. So we haven't actually talked about it.
Just curious, it's a beautiful property, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was, there is a lifetime easement to grow corn there.
Yeah.
The Kenyon family continues to, but other than that, we've just had it for conservation for spadefoot toads and, yeah.
Okay, thank
I
you.
could put it, yeah,
Yeah, just curious, yeah.
I can look at the deed and
Thank
see, yeah.
Yeah, we'll hear from Mr. Stark.
I was just gonna say, so some of the stuff, Dan, you're asking about, and you too. I mean, a lot of that stuff is available in different locations. So with biking, mountain biking and stuff, primarily it's the state property. So we got Carolina, we got a little piece, like off Blitz Creek and Arcadia. And so those are all mapped already. Now, are they in perfect condition, like where you could actually put it on a map and saying, here's the bike trails, here's hiking trails and whatnot. I don't know if it's in a nice, convenient location is what I'm saying, but there's a lot, like, if you go to like All Trails as an app, those trails are all mapped out. I've walked a ton of those things and they're actually quite accurate. And so here you got the layers. We just got to get a hold of the layers and have somebody with a GIS skill set to put that together for our town. We got the Richmond Heritage Trail where we're in the process of trying to restore the grassland and pollinator habitat. We got a hiking trail. We got an ADA loop trail. And so that stuff is in there. It's already on some of those app sites too. And if you wanted a nice, convenient place, we could probably get that together. But it's a group of us sitting down, and we need somebody with GIS skills. I can tell somebody what we like, but I'm not a GIS expert.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the Land Trust Council that I mentioned is there to support land trust with GIS needs, but I don't know if they would, commit the time to do a whole map of all the state lands and TNC lands and Audubon lands, as well as town lands and to create a townwide map. And that would be more of an investment.
Yeah, it's
like you
definitely-
said that but I mean, I'm happy to help with that. I just don't think that the Land Trust can take it on as a.
Yeah, we used to have, I forgot the woman's name. She lives over in Jamestown, and she used to do the GIS work for us. With the town hired her on a more or less like an hourly basis. Because we used to have some of that done by her, we did the maps for some of the, the parks, Beaver River Park and some of the other ones anyway. And so there are people out there,
Is it Mary Hutchinson?
yeah, Mary Hutchinson. I don't know if she's
Yeah.
still doing that stuff or not.
I mean, there's nothing preventing us from putting out an RFP to see how much it would cost to do this. But what I'm hearing is we have a lot of information that's not compiled and easily accessible.
Yep.
And I was looking at Jim, and maybe Jim and I were on the same wavelength, but you know what the Rich Task Force is really good for? Bringing different entities together and recommending how to handle it.
I saw the Recreation Commission folks listening to this conversation, very interesting. I mean, you've got the three legs of the stool in the room, so.
But I want to point out, the whole reason why a year ago, the council agreed with me to do this is because look at how much good work everyone's doing. And it's like just getting it all together and working in the same direction so we can implement and make our town a better place. And I'm really impressed with like all the work that everyone's doing. And I mean, it's making waves. I mean, it's improving our town, which is good.
I think having a real nice map, which, I mean, to get somebody to do that work, that, my gut feeling, it's probably about 30K, but I make the assumption that we have a lot of layers that are out there, right? And they compile them and then they put them on a map, basically. But then printing these things in a nice, fold out or something like that. It'd be awesome if we could do that, because I think that would be a great draw, to Richmond, which I know that's one, when we developed the Richmond Heritage Trail project, that was always our intent. It was to provide information to the heritage of the town, but also have it as a place where people could go walking, have an ADA for older people or somebody with limited physical capabilities. And now we're doing the habitat restoration. And so my goal was always to try to have a nice corridor where people could walk up there. You've got native pollinator habitat there. So that's all a work in progress. And I think, down the road, it'll be really good if we can get a good map system together.
But that connects to the north-south trail too, and
Yeah.
there's also been an effort to kind of, for the hiking standpoint, to make those connectors, to get people off the roads.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
have them be able to not have to walk a long way on 138 and then walk up, those.
That was another one we wanted to do, is have a trail crossing the swamp where, we are looking at that property for Kevin's son memorials. And that would have allowed perhaps like a boardwalk to go across the swamp to lead it, so we get people off, the north-south trail on the main roads and put it into a quieter area that's scenic. And that's not a small project, but that's always been in my mind for probably 15, 20 years.
Yeah,
Well,
that's a good one. That's a great one.
So that's a good segue to my next question.
Yeah.
Which is, one of the responses from the land trust is requesting DPW assistance in budgeting. So what is the process for a board or commission to request DPW assistance or estimates? I mean, we do have, we have a DPW that's very capable, and if we can use them to help save some money and maybe do some work for the land trust, like we were talking about, developing some entrances to some of the properties.
That may be a question I'd ask our town administrator to
thinking.
answer.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I've had that question for 10 years back and forth. And sometimes it's just a matter of prioritization. I mean, if there's, stuff happening with culverts and flooding and, dangerous trees and power lines, like obviously snow removal, like whatever, those are priorities. But so then it's a matter of, is there like an ongoing list of sort of wish list items or when there's time? Because in the past we've applied for trail grants to get funding, and then we contract out, but I think we probably spend more than we would obviously if the DPW was able to provide assistance, but they are also very busy. So
They are, but do you check in with them like before going? Oh, not usually. Sometimes, because I just remember when I was working with Jim, he would check in with them at least before going to somebody else. But maybe
Gary,
we should
make a
defer
phone
to
call
our
Gary.
town administrator for the process in which she would like us
Yeah,
to
that
use
would
our DPW director. And if you're not ready to share that plan today, maybe that could be a future item for you to work on.
So I think it's really important that, that the staff is always here for all of our volunteer boards. But also know that we might not always have the bandwidth. And so sometimes when these great grant opportunities come with a match, sometimes what is lost, I think, is the public works allocation towards that. And those sometimes add up with different entities asking. So our grant process provides an outline of after, it says come to the council and request it. And then after, provide all your reporting to the finance director and the department. But I think it would be great if we could start to have a more formal process to ensure that we're allocating our staff properly, and to not, say, yes, you can have that grant, but it requires a match of staff that we might not have at the time.
Right.
So I think as grant proposals come of boards, that be considered and a meeting be set up with that entity to make sure that they have that bandwidth. But knowing that, of course, they will always assist when they can, but some of the projects are a greater scope. So I do like Suzanne's idea of having maybe a wish list of
Mhm.
like future things as funding comes available and what the town staff might support versus what should be contracted services. Because it is expensive for, you know, when we go out because of prevailing wage and services. And so of course, everybody wants to prevent that, but sometimes, you know, when we're limited in staff and short-staffed, that getting what has to happen in order to make a grant match takes a pretty heroic effort of our staff. And so I would like to minimize that, them to be put in that position, I guess. So it would be a good idea to have more of a formal grant and match services process for that in-kind match.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing though is you'd like the land trust to send you a wish list, and Gary, and then you can take
Not
it
just land trust, I think all,
Or any-
any board that utilizes in kind and certainly the land trust, they, you know, the properties are maintained by the Boy Scouts. There's a lot of different entities. So I don't want, you know, Suzanne's here tonight, so I don't want it to be like it's the land trust, but maintaining future properties and future projects and hiking and biking, if it's going to be an allocation or a duty that's added to our public works staff, that the public works has a seat at the table before it's implemented. Sure.
Yeah. Awesome.
One more question,
Go for it.
or Mark brings me out. You mentioned in your report a land acquisition working group. What entities would that entail? What would that look like?
So right now, the land acquisition, it's a subcommittee of trustees that are on the board of trustees. So there's 3 of us that will negotiate, you know, conservation easements or land protection projects. We're the ones that write the open space grants and do sort of all of the day-to-day work that is required, the working with our attorney on, you know, title search work, or the purchase and sales agreements, or, you know, any of that sort of stuff. And then, you know, we always go back to the full board of trustees for any approvals to move forward on anything.
Okay.
But that's just within the land trust board of trustees.
Yeah, so I'm specifically asking about, you wrote a broader plan to connect green space in town require a working group including multiple stakeholders, which we encourage the town council to convene. I'm sorry I wasn't specific.
Oh, yeah, no, because
Oh.
you had asked about whether or not, yeah, we're working collaboratively with the other conservation organizations on land protection. And we do on a regular basis, but it's more of a case by case. Like if we get contacted by a landowner that says, we're interested in conserving our land, you know, can you help us? And we know that it's going to exceed anything that we could do by ourselves, we will immediately reach out to DEM and TNC and see if it's a parcel that they're interested in. DEM has an internal process. They have to get approval. If it's a parcel that they are then interested in, and then we would decide who's going to pay for the appraisal, get an appraisal, see if we have a price that the landowner is amenable to, and then we'll have the conversation as to who would own that. So the Banfield property on Hillsdale was purchased a couple years ago. TNC owns that, but the land trust paid for half of it and owns the easement. We purchased the Chan property and Rhode Island DEM gave us half and they hold the easement. So there's always an overlay of protection. The TNC holds the easement of the Scudder Preserve. And so sometimes they have use restrictions. Sometimes DEM has use restrictions. Sometimes the person who sold it or donated it or sold it at a bargain price had requests for lifetime hunting access or lifetime logging or, you know, use it, firewood. And so every single property has layers that I have to go back and remind myself, you know, what's allowed, what's not allowed. But in terms of future acquisition, we have lists of priorities that we have identified based on some of the larger undeveloped parcels that connect open space, parcels that are over our aquifer and protect groundwater resources, parcels that are on some of the major thoroughways that add to the rural character of our town, which we know is important to people. And the connectivity piece, we have a whole, you know, list of rankings and priorities. And we reach out on a regular basis to folks just to say, hey, we're here. If you have an interest in conservation of your land, And most of the time people are like, nope, we're good, you know, that's private, they want to use it for themselves and that's fine. And every once in a while, then we have a project where we can move forward. So we do work with those other entities, but I wouldn't say that we've ever sat down and like compared lists and said, which actually wouldn't be a bad thing, like to say, hey, is there anything in town that you guys, I found out just by chance a few weeks ago that someone contacted Audubon about protecting a property and they're in discussions and I don't even know what parcel that is. I just know that that's happening in town. And so I was going to reach out and say, we're here too, if there's an interest in any sort of collaboration. And so I'm sure there are people that just reach out to TNC or that, you know, whoever they happen to know about.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And there's also just easements like NRCS. We're working on an easement with NRCS right now where they'll pay for the conservation easement and the private landowner will continue to own the land. But yeah.
Okay.
So that was it for questions?
That's all I got.
Does anybody else have anything they'd like to
Thanks.
bring up? Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate your work on the land trust too. Yeah, good to see you. The next report, it is a report heavy evening, is the Economic Development Commission report. Mr. Gary Parker, this was also pulled from our last agenda. So I appreciate you joining us today.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Good evening, ma'am. Gary Parker, Chairman of the EDC. By way of a report, actually, since you pulled the report, would it be appropriate to ask if you have questions first about that before I kind of give the quick overview?
I think that's a good way to start. We had two counselors pulled out. It was both Palmashano and Madnick. I'm sure there's other questions as well. Can I start with Counselor Palmashano this time?
Yeah, I actually had pulled to discussion to recognize the amount of work that you'd put into it. I mean, it was an immense amount of work, and I think I stated last time that, you know, we all are aware in the past that EDC, you know, there's been questions of what they were working on, and you've demonstrated a clear industrious approach to doing a lot of work. So that's what I thank you. And then Councilor Maddox said, look, let's not just talk about it, let's pull it so we can have a discussion and have you present it.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. Yes, sir. And funny enough, the summary when presented to the EDC, one of our members actually said, he says, well, they could just look at our agendas. And I was like, well, let's try to do something a little more formal because Madam President and I had spoken about the idea of reporting of some sort of formal report of which there will be more substance, executable action things, results, things like that, rather than simply laying the groundwork. So, but yes, that's our intention, is to say, what are the items that we've actioned and what are those outcomes?
Yeah.
So we have a few. We actually have a few in here.
Yeah, it's not the same as looking at the agenda. Like I said earlier, I receive,
No,
I look at them, but you don't really have the discussion or the conversations. So I appreciate you being here.
Being facetious.
Oh, good,
Oh, yeah.
good. I mean, both are good to have a look at. But Councilor Madnick, do you have any specific items you want to start?
So I got 4 questions for you. I think these ones will be pretty simple. So the first one is, you mentioned in the report an economic town map, and that seemed really exciting.
Yeah.
And do you have an estimate of like when the EDC will be finished with that?
It's never going to be finished because
never.
you know, so what we did, so the logic behind the town map, I can actually, if you might permit me to answer it with a little bit of historical
Yeah,
background.
I just thought it was gonna be something physical, you know?
Well, it is, it actually
Oh.
is. It's in fact, Talia's, it was Talia and Susan actually got me a beautiful town map that we put on a whiteboard. And we started mapping out where the businesses are. It's just a matter of collecting that information, mapping it, and then understanding. So we were collecting so much information as to what was where that we just started actioning what we knew rather than taking the time to build a map for our own purposes. But the idea would be that it would be it's really an EDC tool rather than necessarily something that would be presented, because it's always changing. It's obsolete in a sense. It's obsolete the minute it gets printed because there's always change. So really, that's a working tool for us. But I can certainly bring it. I can certainly bring it for you. It's basically just a pin map.
Oh, okay.
Really, it's just a pin map.
All right, so the second question is, you wrote here about reaching out to and having conversations with the U.S. Small Business Association and the Westerly Credit Union.
Yes.
And I was just curious what kind of guidance they gave you, and if there's anything that you can share with the town council or residents that, you know, that you might have gleaned from having conversations with them.
Of course. So Westerly Credit Union, phenomenal representatives there. Jim Breer and I met with them right across the street here. They said basically their business lending, their commercial lending arm is really like, it's not, Richmond doesn't really have a whole lot of demand from their commercial lending arm.
Mhm.
If there's going to be demand, it's going to be at the lower end, maybe say 50,000. I'll just use numbers, they were open source. Between say 50,000 and $500,000 for a business startup loan would be more handled by the Small Business Administration. And so we have those contacts like on speed dial to put entrepreneurs in touch with them, or even people who have existing businesses and want to expand. So absolutely, sir. So the information that was gleaned was that this SBA is really the source for our small businesses, not necessarily Westerly Credit Union. And they were glad to hand us off to the Small Business Administration, which is good. I mean, that's good because they've got that called micro lending, for lack of a better term. Yeah, and yeah.
So follow up and bringing it, just if I'm ignorant, is there a link to the Small Business Administration on the EDC website now?
We do post, basically, it's a little bit dated, but we will post notices from the Small Business Administration. When they post them, we'll repost them on it's a Facebook page. It's not a website.
What about our Richmond Gov webpage?
We can work that out with the town managers, the town administrator, absolutely.
All right, and then third question, I guess, kind of the next two kind of follow on that. So you read that you're developing a business startup checklist.
Yes.
If that isn't developed, or if it is developed, when it is, how can we advertise it? Are we going to put it on the EDC website? That seems like a really good, useful tool to have.
Yes, in fact. So the demand for a startup checklist is gigantic, and what we've learned is that the benefit would be when an entrepreneur, business owner, startup commences the process. Let's say even just going to zoning or planning. Where do they start? They find themselves surprised by the processes. Some of that is just due to there's no criticism, but there's some opacity, if you will, to some of our processes within the building. And there's some learning curve that occurs with any normal business owner. The idea, and Madam the town administrator and I have spoken about this, because she had initiated this quite a while ago, the notion of having a start point on the town website. That is in development. One of the things that I proposed actually is that we test that circuit in a way by doing a proposed mock business, like just a test business. So we say, okay, who do we start with? And I know the town administrator has been extremely helpful by saying, hey, send folks to the clerks, send them to the town administrator, get in and speak to people and say, hi. The problem is, Mr. Counselor, is that a lot of people don't know that, you know what I mean? So that has to be explained in a way, so people are not afraid to come into the building, that they know that the expertise is here, and it's welcoming to be able to help people rather than, the land of no. So that's a public messaging element. But in terms of a deliverable product, certainly working with the town administrator on that. In fact, almost every time we see each other, it's like, hey, what are we thinking about that, man? So, yeah, but it has to become real. It has to become real. That's the thing. So.
Yeah, that just it sounds fantastic. And then the last thing again with the website, Ocean Community Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
It seems like based on your report that would also be a good link to have on your government website as well.
Certainly, we definitely put it on the .gov for sure, and it's part of our Facebook, EDC Facebook page, absolutely. But yes, that is the one element about the OCC, it paid off more from a municipal perspective than necessarily just EDC. For instance, when we did the town administrator selection committee, it was tremendous that we could get that advertisement of the open, the job opening on the OCC website. I'd be fibbing to say I knew what the actual feedback was from the OCC website. How many applicants we got via that would be a myth, but at least it was there, and so we had that ability.
Those are my 4 questions.
Sure.
Excellent report. Thank you.
Well, I have actually I'm sorry, over to the council. Sorry.
You can go. Yeah.
So in actual response to Councilor Maddox's earlier question regarding ideas turning into action, turning into results. So I would like to start actually compliment with Robbins, as the new director of recreation, hitting, as we used to say in the Navy, hitting the deck plates running. A well-executed plan today is better than a perfect plan tomorrow. And so the compliment on the idea of the winter break kids activity thing, that's phenomenal. Because there's things we can control, she can control, and that was our objective from the start. First thing, as you know, and this is just a 1-minute history. You know that the EDC had sort of, it was a little bit rudderless in a sense, not for any criticism, it just didn't really have a guidance system. We had to go, our first order of business was to look at, see what are the actual directives. This is by way of a 2025 report. What are the actual directives that say we have to do what we do? Why do we have to advise you? So we figured that out. The next thing we said is we can't advise anything if we've got our heads in our pockets. We don't know anything. So our actionable became go and meet all the town's businesses, meet everybody, and watch the board's planning, watch the planning board, you know, sit on the planning board, sit on the zoning board review, sit on the conservation commission, sit in on these boards and see what's actually occurring. From there, we decided there are 3 elements: the policy advisement, which you're well aware of course, you know, as evidenced by the table of use. That's Mark 1. Yeah, that's basically the fact of that. But the other part is the entrepreneurial, trying to get our entrepreneurs really to come out of their shell and create businesses. And so we thought, in fact, we even discussed this at our December, or actually our January meeting at the EDC. We actually thought that the policy part was sort of laying flat, but then again, it's something that has come back up again regarding the table of uses. And you know how the EDC feels about that regarding the property rights. But our other line of effort, and this is executable, is to find our entrepreneurs. And so we really just are going out and meeting people and trying to find who were the small farmers, who were the folks that are selling flowers off the end of their driveway. We've already done that once, but now we have to double down.
Yeah.
Because if we can get to those people, then we can actually bring onesies and twosies and threesies out and say, hi, we would like to introduce you to the Small Business Administration counselors. We would like to introduce you to the Rhode Island, the Small Business Development Center. We've met the experts there at URI to pair them up, because we think that if we get the policy environment right, table of uses, business licensing, we get that right, and then we can say to our few entrepreneurs, start a business, we can show you how. And then we bridge that and get out of the way. As actually evidenced with the Shannick, with Jeff Marlowe down at Shannick. Okay, that was when we went down there and I met with him and met with Sandy Neuschatz, who's also creating that memorial association. That was just simply old classic boots on the ground, go meet somebody that you heard about. So we went and met, and that's what bringing him into the, you know, into the decision-making and policymakers environment. That's what we do, you know?
Yeah.
In fact, it was kind of funny, just real quick, in April of 2015, or 2025.
All right.
We had already spoken with many developers as to how we would possibly affect the economy at large in Richmond. It was actually in April, we developed the 5 villages strategy. It was on our agenda. We talked about the 5 villages strategy. I thought it was really fun and exciting because we knew sort of how we were going to approach it. But then a couple of months later, I sat in on the task force, and Andrew Pez presented the same general idea. So it was like, oh wow, we've got 2 people who invented calculus separately, and suddenly we actually met at the same point. So there's a lot of there regarding the village strategy. It's just, how does it get executed? One of the ways is just going out and meeting the people. Jeff is a classic example of somebody who's that entrepreneur who's got the money. Like I was mentioning before, we don't have $100 million to execute a top-down planning strategy, but we do have entrepreneurs who do have money to be able to do that. And so to energize those type of folks, to find out who owns Carolina Village and turn that into, Mr. Dave Johnson and I spoke about that when we visited that, turn Carolina Village into possibly a old Sturbridge light, you know, something like that. And that fits in with our strategies, if you will, to create these village dynamics. And actually, as Councilor Madden brought up, when you brought up about the biking trails, I thought, wouldn't it be cool if somebody could actually just bike between each village? That would be pretty wild. I mean, talk about an environment for synergy you know, so.
Mhm.
But again, the zoning the zoning and the easement rights have to all work out, so. So that's that. As far as our future, just to wrap it up, our 2026 game plan is, again, to keep our eye like hawks on the policy environment as far as zoning and business licensing. Also with, of course, the town administrator to work out that deliverable of a checklist, but also to, dare I say, to initiate some projects. So we've discussed, I think I mentioned it last town council meeting about the Junior Achievement Program. It's a nationwide, been around for 45 years. A lot of folks are familiar with it. Already spoken with Junior Achievement Rhode Island. Spoke with president or the principal of Charahoe High School. It may or may not be a good fit for Charahoe High School because they actually have a similar kind of program right now. The Future Business Leaders of America may or may not be a good fit, but Junior Achievement is amenable that we here at the town hall could do something with Junior Achievement, possibly on weekends or after school or something like that. That would be something that would need to be just discussed. We have time, obviously, it's generally semester based. But that is something where we would create the entrepreneurs. We would get those people and get the high schoolers involved, educate on, it's basically just entrepreneurial education. That's quite it. And hopefully, obviously involve their parents. If we can get their parents involved, and now we've got this ability to just educate people on the possibilities of starting a business. And naturally, if it would become a civics lesson, because then they would probably get some contact time with our counselors and our legislators and staff officers to figure out how do they actually engage with the town hall so that they know the town hall's a partner, not a problem.
Yeah.
So that's a big piece. And you were aware of the ice skating rink. So yeah, so the ice skating rink actually is probably the long pole in the tent there is simply going to be finding sponsors. But the long pole there is to convince the sponsors that in fact we can get the property to do this. Technically, crazy enough, the technical problem is virtually solved. That is, I don't want to be cavalier, but it's just that money. And if we find the sponsors, it could be set up maybe 8 weeks during the Thanksgiving to Epiphany timeframe after the holiday.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome.
So,
Thank you so
anyway.
much. The EDC is doing great work. As you said, for a while, there wasn't a rudder, there was no captain sailing the ship. So I appreciate you stepping up and doing what you're doing as the chair. It's all about getting the right people in the right places, and the members we have, not just you, but the other members are doing a fantastic job. And I just want to do a quick plug because you do have 2 vacancies. So if anybody's hearing this and thinking, this is great work, I want to be a part of it, you can be a part of it. Reach out to the town clerk to submit an application. There's really minimal requirements, except I think energy is the biggest thing because you're gonna have to keep up with Gary. So with that, I'll turn it over to Councilor Palmashano.
Yeah, Gary, thank you. I just had one quick question on the ice rink. I know you've done a lot of work on that feasibility. And at this point too, you're probably looking to next year for,
Yeah, let's
Next year.
just dartboard November 2026.
yeah, so
Yeah.
that, by that point too, and I'm not sure where this was in the discussion of feasibility, but across the street, we will, by that point, have the pavilion built. We will have the parking, so there would be space. Were you considering that also as far as location?
So I'd like to actually thank Kate, Kate for bringing that. Kate and I were talking about options, and she suggested that way back. And I was like, you know what? At first, I was like, maybe some mechanics. Have to check with the chief in terms of traffic flow and things like that. So if it's safety,
Sure.
But absolutely, sir.
Oh, good.
There's nothing wrong with that because we control. That's ours.
Yeah, excellent. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So yes, sir. Thank you for bringing that up. I think it'd be better to have that executable than a long ball pass down at some other place.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
All right. I see no other counselor questions. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
On to unfinished business, a request from Councilor Madnick for discussion and consideration to request the town planner for a status update. Or do you want to give us a little information and your motion?
Yeah, sure. I'm just gonna pull up.
Yeah.
document. Alrighty, so back on October 27th, it went on the November 4th agenda. A few months ago, we asked for some updates from the May 2025 Comprehensive Community Plan Action Priorities. So the good news is we heard from the EDC, we heard from the Entrust, so we can kind of check that off. There were some items from the Conservation Commission, the Affordable Housing Committee, and the Planning Board. And I can run through those real quick just to remind everyone. And I don't know if Talia, if you have that list.
Tell you that I received comments from Jim Turk in relation to the Conservation Commission today. I do not have them for the Planning Board or for the Affordable Housing Committee. I could feasibly have them prepared for the March 17th meeting. I know that the March 3rd meeting is like chock full, and adding anything else to that agenda might be a bit difficult.
Mhm.
So if you want a formal report for that, I'd be happy to do that for March 17th.
I think that sounds doable because the item here is to request a status update. So if that sounds like a fair timeline.
Yeah, I mean, I expected the update tonight, but March 17th is fine. If that gives you a date to take action and get something to us, I think that's fair.
Okay.
It'll be the third time. So
Sure, go ahead, Counselor.
I think the planner has a lot on her plate. And this is not, should not be on the top of her list of things to do. She has a lot going on. And to say it's been 2 months and I want a status update, I just think is too much. And so I would just, when she's ready to come back, she'll come back. And I don't think, I just want to say that. I just think this, with all the things that's going on in the planning department right now, coming up with a status update on the comprehensive community plan, like I said, is not top on the list. So if you want to ask the town clerk to send an email to the chair of the boards and commissions to provide us with an update, you can do that. But to ask the planner to be running around to the different boards and commissions to try to find updates, I think is too much.
Do you want to put that into the form of a motion? Motion ask the town clerk to reach out to the.
Well, it sounds like Talia's already compiling the information, but I just, if I just think to put this on her plate and basically telling her to expedite it, which is what you're doing, it's unfair.
I'm giving her a date so that she can take action. Because if you don't give people a date, people don't work towards it. That's management 101. Right? This has been on the agenda multiple times. It was the list that this is very simple. One of them is increase Affordable Housing Committee meetings to monthly and with quarterly. Did the AHC discuss this? That's a simple question.
They haven't discussed it, they don't want to.
Okay. Thank you for the answer. So now we know. Now the town knows. Where did the collected housing and WU fees go for inclusionary zoning?
So the item like on the agenda does say request the town planner for a status update. So I thought that's kind of what we're doing is getting like a date certain. Of
This
some
was
kind.
supposed to be the
Yeah.
status update.
Oh, okay. Is
I
that
mean, we can just keep the ball rolling and never actually complete anything. If that's what you guys want to do, I'm okay with that. Because we're just going to keep this going down the road forever. And I know you don't believe in the comp plan. That's fine. This is my opinion.
we have to believe in it. It's physically there. It's not Santa. but seriously, I just that's my expectation. If you're prepared to answer them, then we can do this evening, I think, depending on how the agenda is listed.
My reading of the agenda item was that it was going to be setting a date to get those
Yeah.
responses, not to give a report tonight.
Okay.
So that's why I suggested the specific date. Because I know that the March 3rd meeting is pretty booked up.
Okay.
But I mean, it's the council as a body wants to direct me to do that, that's fine. If the council as a body does not want to direct me to do that, that's also fine. It's the prerogative of the council.
Okay. Town administrator.
So Talia and I had a brief conversation when this agenda item came up, and I did suggest, I did say to Talia that I think her time not be suited sitting at meetings, and a simple email to each board chair and secretary to say, to provide, a very brief survey of what has been done and not, and then they could report back to her. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that within that time frame of March 17th, to be honest, because many boards are meeting. But I did say to Talia, I don't believe her presence at meetings to collect that data is necessary, and she should just simply provide those comp plan lineups to those boards with outstanding questions, and then they could respond. is my suggestion. So just putting that out there for conversation.
Any thoughts on this end?
Just like to
Nope.
hear his thoughts on it, on that.
Sure.
This is a little bit different from what he was proposing, I think.
I mean, you know, Mark has a point. If Talia has a lot going on and there's someone else within the staff that can get the questions answered, then we'll have someone else do it.
Oh, no,
I think
sorry,
that,
that's not what I was suggesting.
I-
No, I think I can tell you not
This is-
go to the meeting physically and just send an email to the boards. Because she's actively compiling it, working on it, and that just to send the questions of what's outstanding to the boards, have them answer it, and she can compile it and bring it back versus Talia went to every board meeting last time, which, you know, it hadn't been done in some time, so I think that probably was prudent then, but not necessarily.
Can I?
Yeah.
When I supervise at EB, I don't tell people how to do things. Right? When I delegate work, I said, here's your task. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I'm not a micromanager. I honestly don't care if she does it, if she goes to the meetings, if she sends an email, someone else does it. These are beneficial to the public. We're trying to implement this document that this town approved. Don't really care how to get the answers and who does it. Very simple.
right, I agree. I think it's beneficial to hear from the committees and commissions. That was well exampled through everything we've already talked about this evening. So if we could have the reports, I think back to Mark's point of it being from the chair and the boards, the commissions themselves, it would be easier on all town staff. And that's my 2 cents. But I also agree that deadlines are important as well. So hearing that March 15th is feasible is a good thing. Do we have a
17th.
formal motion? What did I say? 17th? Okay. Do we have a formal motion on this item? Any action we want to take?
All right, I'll request from town staff to provide the updates to the council and the public on the leftover items from the November 4th town council meeting regarding the comprehensive community plan.
I'll second that. Noting that the motion was town staff. So back to your point, it could be anybody. Just, we got to get it done. Any
Right.
further council discussion?
Trying to make it broad.
All right, we'll go for our vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Adnick,
Yes.
Palmigano.
Yes.
Reynolds.
No.
And myself, yes. On to our next item, request from Counselor Palmigano for discussion consideration of determining a platform to obtain public feedback. Thank you, Talia, by the way.
Yeah, I'll make this really quick. You guys have had the document to review. Aaron, when was it we met this last week for about an hour with the team just to review some of the parameters on this survey process. I think the most important thing to let the council know is that it was really important to put the power of how quickly and Talia was involved with this as well, how quickly a survey is requested, whether a survey could be executed in the hands of the town administrator and town staff, so that it doesn't become a burden on the staff. So she has first right of refusal on what goes forward when, but it gives a mechanism for all of the boards and commissions and department heads to utilize a platform where we can all benefit from the data that's collected. So you've all had a chance to read through some of the specifics, but just know that, that we wanted to make sure this wasn't introducing an undue burden on any department and that Aaron has the ability to control the flow. So I'll just say that. Thank you.
Awesome. So are we looking for, like, as far as an action approving this evening as is? Or are you looking for more feedback to mull over?
We do need some guidance on
Okay.
whether this would be, you know, we're trying to get away policies, or would this be a resolution temporarily? Want to see how it goes. Depending on the council's pleasure on moving forward with this, would this be a referral to see if this is an ordinance? So I'd like to refer to the solicitor on that, on whether how would be the scope of where it would be contained in our rules and regulations, I guess.
All right. Can we go over any feedback we have before we decide what we're gonna do with it?
I was just going to say the reason why you brought that up in the meeting was because this is something that's valuable. You don't want to have to recreate the wheel every time some administration changes. So you had suggested that perhaps it be something with more durability. Sorry. Yeah.
Sure. Kendra. Awesome. We'll go for council discussion first, and we'll definitely get somebody online. So thank you for letting me know they're there. I have a couple quick feedback, unless anybody else wants to go first. All right, I'm going. Some things that stood out to me. was having all the surveys go through the town administrator for approval. I just felt like it took some of the ownership of it off our boards and commissions. I mean, I can also see the benefit just to kind of screen them, make sure that they're appropriate, but I think we trust our volunteers and we screen them before they get appointed. So I think that it might be unnecessary to send it through the town administrator. I also felt that the limiting the survey to 10 questions, I understand if you have a long survey, you're less likely for people to take it, complete it, and finish it. But that's the risk the board is going to have to take if they want more questions. But other than that, through this process, I didn't realize that a lot of the surveys that our boards and commissions have done or don't necessarily get preserved by the town clerk or the clerk's office. So it would not necessarily be obtained through like an ARPA request. And APRA, sorry. So I'm really excited about that because I think it's important that we maintain it. But that's the only thing that really stood out right away to me. Does anybody else have any feedback? All right, none. So I guess we'll go on to what you suggest we do.
And if I could just ask Aaron, just refresh my memory. Did you speak to why you had preferred that these surveys go back through you? I know there was one. Yeah, go ahead, please.
So we did put the onus on the boards and commissions to have actual motions on their survey and questions. However, in order to not, because it would just go to a member of staff, so it would be referred based on timing and workload anyway. So it would come through my office, as well as, currently we have a great member of the town clerk's office that is very tech savvy, that could get it out. But, depending on timing and, other workload, it might be delegated elsewhere. And so we just wanted to ensure that it met all of our policies as far as, social media, language, political, just an extra layer. But the onus is on the board as far as making a motion and having that go forward before the staff would take any kind of action on that. The town administrator is responsible for the website where these, surveys would likely be hosted, and then the preservation on the end of it. Looking at not just distributing the survey, but collecting and then returning it to the board to have some sort of scrubbing of data to make sure that that is done and then preserved after. So it's definitely a couple, steps on that. I will say, printed copies and, dissemination of those copies, I have depending on how many surveys we're doing, our budgets for operating line item and office supplies got quite reduced last year. And so there's not a lot of room there. So if boards are having surveys, we would definitely look at how that would be funded. But the reason why is just to not put a staff member who was given this survey, for instance, in a position. It would just be screened through the town administrator like the other website items are. So I'm sorry. Does that matter?
Okay, no, that answered,
Okay.
I think, my question. It wasn't something I felt strongly about, just something I noted and wanted to learn more about. We do have somebody online? Please do state your name for the record when you get permissions.
Hi, this is Dave Bankson, resident of Richmond. I've been following this discussion and I just wanted to make a suggestion. So one of the residents in our town, a former colleague at URI and still currently a friend here in town, is Steve Swallow. And he made a career doing surveys in environmental resource economics. And it occurred to me that it might be useful, since when I first thought about surveys, it was like, oh yeah, you just ask the questions that you want an answer to. It turns out surveys are extremely complicated or tricky to construct. And so I thought it might be a good idea, if Steve is willing, for him to come in and offer a primer on like Survey 101. what do you do to make sure that your questions, the question you're asking or you think you're asking, is being interpreted by the recipient in the way you think they're receiving it. So one thing I know, for example, before Steve would send out a survey to 5,000 people, he would run it by a focus group of 5 to 10 people, let's say, to say, do these questions make sense? How would you, all that kind of thing. So just a suggestion, maybe to contact Steve and see if he would be interested in helping you out with just, what are the do's and what are the don'ts when you're constructing a survey?
Yeah, that's a great.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Thank you. He's just been voluntold to do it. I'm sure you have his contact information because he's on a board. So we can reach out.
So I was gonna ask you at the contact, so thank you.
Yeah, yeah. No, he has not been voluntold. We'll ask him nicely. Any other feedback on this item? All right. Here, no action, I guess, taken.
Yeah,
We'll just continue moving along with it.
I believe, was it you wanted to direct the solicitor to see what the best place was gonna be?
Yeah, if council wanted to continue moving forward, where would we incorporate policy? Typically, we're getting away from policies in government with this.
It doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like an ordinance.
Would it
It's
A resolution.
more of a directive from the council that, and then for you to be able to issue the boards to be issued the surveys, but I don't think it's not an ordinance.
Good, just simple.
Yeah.
Good.
But also the
Where would
It
it
was-
live after them?
yeah, the discussion of whether or not
In the
Maybe it should be a resolution.
maybe we should have a welcome to Richmond, thanks for volunteering packet where it's included in that.
I was gonna say, there was some discussion, Madam President, about not having town administrator review it. Maybe think about whether or not you want some second set of eyes on that to say yes or no, as opposed to.
I think I was alone in that thought, and I'm moved past it, especially after hearing from Dave. Having another set of eyes, the town administrator could even be a focus group. So, I'm not concerned about it.
So is it just a motion to ask the draft? Are we talking about a resolution? Is that it?
I don't know if you need.
I mean, if we don't need to do that, we just go forward and make it part of the policy then, yeah.
I think you can do that.
Okay, fine. Do we need to do any motion on that, or you're good?
It's really an internal function of the
Mhm.
town government.
Yeah.
How to reiterate these terms to boards, though, is my only question.
I don't know if that is a topic of discussion for the council tonight, is how we disseminate it to the boards. So maybe that's something that our town administrator would be able to handle.
Madam President, how about a policy to be drafted?
Mhm.
And then we can have the town council review it. If you think it's appropriate, then we can disseminate it to the boards if you see fit.
Sounds good.
That sound all right? Okay, yeah, let's do that.
All right.
I mean,
Motion?
Yeah, motion.
Second?
Yeah.
Go for our roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore.
Yes.
Madnick.
Yes.
O'Shannell.
Yes.
Reynolds.
yes.
And myself, yes.
Thank you.
New business, request from Counselor Madnick for discussion and consideration of requesting the town planner and planning board update the development application checklist. Go ahead, Mr. Madnick, with
right.
your reasoning and your motion.
Well, so I have a technical question for our solicitor. So the agenda as written says checklist, but the request is checklists because there are multiple. So do we have to move this to another agenda?
I really hope not.
No,
I-
I don't think you do.
All right, well, I just
It
realized
was about-
my previous agenda item was not advertised correctly, which led to that previous discussion. So I want to make sure that we're on the same footing before I move forward.
I appreciate that question.
And I'm gonna clarify something. So we have, I didn't put a lot of specifics on this because I figured the public and the council, besides maybe myself, aren't familiar with a lot of the different checklists that we have for different applications in planning and land use. So there are 5. There's the application for land development or subdivision approval. There's an application for development plan review, application for comprehensive permit, application for an amendment to the zoning ordinance, and an application or an amendment to the comprehensive community plan. And of those five, the most recent was updated in 2023 for the state law changes. That was the comp permit. The other ones haven't been updated since 2013, 2015, 2009, almost a decade. And in that time, Rhode Island general laws, zoning ordinances, subdivision regulations have all been updated since the last major updates. This is kind of another piece of the organizational efficiency that I've been working on for the last year, and this is kind of like the next step in the process. Just trying to make our government process a little bit easier for people that are trying to do business with government. And Gary kind of pointed that out earlier with the EDC. So obviously, I've had experience on the planning board and working with applicants. And so I look at it like, again, from an engineering perspective, when I get a job, it's like, okay, what are my requirements? What do I have to satisfy in order to do my job? So if I'm an applicant, I come to town and I say, I want to do something, and it has to do with land use. I want to know exactly what my requirements are in order to get my application approved and then move through the process. But right now, our application process is so broad and vague that an applicant can come to the town and not exactly know what they need to do. And yes, we do have detailed subdivision regulations. We do have detailed ordinances. Not everyone is able to fully understand the legalese and the details in those. So I was hoping that we could update our checklists so that they're more of like a flow chart. Like, okay, if I'm applying for this, then I need to do this, this, and this, and so on. And it makes it more clear for an applicant on exactly what the requirements are. Now, it doesn't have to be very detailed. It could be, bullet points. Like let's say, for instance, like I want to do something in some zone. Well, the checklists aren't detailed enough to actually to do for someone to come apply and do that. So the request is to look at our current ordinances, our current regulations, and update the application checklist for that. Now, I know what Talia is going to say. She already emailed me about it. Hey, we're constantly updating our subdivision regulations. We're still working on our zoning ordinances. Agreed. Those things change all the time. That doesn't preclude us from updating the checklist as we go. We have an understanding that this stuff is going to change. In fact, there's probably going to be legislation coming out of the House and the Senate this year that's going to change land use laws, which is probably going to precipitate changing of our checklist. But I don't think it's an excuse to say, hey, things might change, so we're going to stick with what we had 10 years ago. I think it's time for us to take an opportunity to update these things, make them streamlined so that when people come to do business with our town, it's easier for them to do it and there's less questions. One of the examples that came up recently with a development had to do with a comprehensive permit and aquifer protection overlay district and how that fit into it. And in the planner's own memo, it says, basically the way I interpret it is, hey, this isn't in our local checklist. We don't really have this, so I don't know if I can make a determination. So planning board, we have to decide what to do. Well, if I'm an applicant, I want to know what are my requirements. If I'm going to be putting in a development and it's in an overlay district, on the application, it should be, is this in an overlay district or not? If it's in farm overlay, okay, you got to do this. If it's in aquifer protection overlay, okay, you got to do this. That's pretty straightforward. Like that's a very simple example of like some of the things I think we should adjust in our checklist. But of course, let the planning board handle that. I just think it's time that we kind of direct the planning board to take that on as part of our organizational. So that's my speech.
Did I state you wanted to mention something?
What I had explicitly written in that regard was that I could not certify an application incomplete under state law because it was not a checklist item. Under state law, I can only certify an application incomplete if it does not include a checklist item. That's why I wrote that it was ripe for the applicant to discuss that. That said, I do agree we should update these checklists.
Awesome.
And I can work on that.
So we should have a motion to ask town staff and the planning board to update the development application checklist to be consistent with current land development subdivision regulations and zoning ordinances and continue to update as needed.
Yes, I would say.
That's the motion.
I would say not just for
Okay.
what is existing right now, because it will change. I will tell you that my ardent hope and what I'm working towards right now is to have all of the articles of the land development subdivision regulations heard at, we'll have a workshop on it at our second meeting in February. The planning board is very adamant that they do not want to have meetings that really commingle these kinds of
Mhm.
high-level discussions with applications. So they really want to have the second meeting of the month be reserved for that. My hope is that they will authorize me to advertise. There's then a 3-week advertisement period. I hope to have the public hearing on the March 24th meeting. Whether or not that actually transpires will depend upon, obviously, the decision of the planning board to say, yes, you can advertise, or no, you can't advertise. But that's my timeline right now.
Awesome.
Just so you have some understanding of where I am at in the particular process, but I can work on updating those other checklists as well.
Thank you so much.
So moved, by the way.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for. Second. Any further council discussion or questions from anybody else? All right, we'll go for our roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
O'Connor,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Thank you so much. Your request from Vice President Reynolds. Do you want to give a little information and your motion, please?
So this is a resolution that we get from Charahoe every year, requesting that the state fully fund categorical transportation aid. As Rep. Carter said when she was here, the governor's budget does do that, but we want to make sure that it doesn't get changed as the House is crafting their budget. So basically, I'm proposing that we pass a resolution that's identical to Charahoe's resolution, other than on the now therefore be it resolved. Instead of saying that the Charahoe Regional School District Committee, it should say that the Richmond Town Council, and then be exactly as Charahoe's resolution is, which I have a copy of.
Awesome. Would you like to make a motion?
So moved.
All right, second. Any council discussion or questions on this? All right, we'll go for our vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
O'Connor,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and myself, yes. On to new business 3, a request from Counselor Madnick for discussion consideration of a proposed amendment to the Richmond Home Charter Rule. You want to go ahead, give a little information and your motion?
Sure. So back during budget discussions, when we were talking about adding recreation director, and then we modified 2 of our ordinances, one of the things that came up was the inability of the council to determine if they should create any new departments within the town. And when we were going through that, one of the things that came up is we looked at other communities, and Hopkinton had in their charter the ability for the town council as the executive body to create a department if they felt it was in the town's best interest. And so I did some research and looked into it and how to amend our charter to allow not just this council, but any council going forward, if they determine as the executive body and based on staff input that there should be a new department formed in order to run the government efficiently in a way they see fit, that they should be able to. And, one of the counters to that, which I'll state now, is, people say, well, we want to have the ability to have input on what departments get created. Well, that's called an election. So if you don't like how the town council did business, then you can, vote for new people. So back to this proposal. How this works is to amend the charter. There are 2 ways to do it. The first way is a charter review commission every 7 years, which Council Reynolds was on the last time. Or the other way to do it is by voter referendum. And there's policies on how to do that in our charter, in our ordinances. And you have to do it in a certain time, but essentially what happens is the council can approve a charter amendment to go to voter referendum at the next general election, which would be November. So the proposal is to add words to our charter, which I have provided, to allow the council to create new departments as they see fit, but does not allow the council to remove any departments that are already governed by the charter. And that is on page 9. And so what the new words would be, it's in section 4, authority and responsibilities. The town council shall have the authority to establish, abolish, or change by ordinance such other departments, offices, and agencies of the town as required, and shall define their powers and duties consistent with the laws of the state of Rhode Island. The head of each new department, office, or agency so established shall be appointed in accordance with Article 3, Section 4C, and Article 4, Section 1B of this charter. Abolishment of departments, offices, and agencies of the town shall not violate Article 4 of this charter. As simple as that. So it'll allow the town council to create departments if they feel the town needs it, but it does not allow them to remove departments that are governed by the charter. That would have to be done through another charter amendment or through charter review commission.
Awesome. So I know you saw me go,
Yes.
oh my goodness, and I'm glad I let you keep going because you ended up answering my question. I mean, that you kept going. When you said you don't like it, well, there's an election, well, there's also a public hearing. If we're going to establish a new department by ordinance, we're required to have it by a public hearing. So if you really don't think it's necessary, you can show up and do that. I don't know necessarily whether or not I'm in favor of the ordinance itself, but I also think that that's not the question before us. The question before us is, do we want to ask the voters if they want this change? And I think that it would be worthwhile to ask them if they want this change, because other towns have it and we've already seen the benefits that we could seek from it. So I'm interested in seeing what the ballot question would look like and going from there. Yeah, what the ballot question would look like and going from there. But is there other counselor feedback? All right, so yeah, sure, go ahead.
I will say this, amending the charter is a big deal. It's the document that's supposed to have consistency. And I'm concerned with piecemeal approach to amending the charter. And that's what this would be. And if there were other, if we had a package of things that we wanted to change, then maybe I would be more amenable to it. But I'm just very reluctant to set the precedent of a piecemeal amendment to the charter in between the 7-year cycles. So that's my reluctance.
Go ahead.
I mean, obviously I'm Republican. I believe in less government. So, I mean, it's not something that I just think I don't want, it could get out of hand. You may have a council that wants to, bring for a new department. You never know. So, not something I would support. On those.
I was just recalling the reason why we're here on this is some of the challenges that we had with when we were trying to structurally reformat the government, which to make sense, we had challenges of changing the names of like the recreation director to different names because of the way the charter is. So that's why we're here. So it's not like Councilor Madnick, you just woke up and said you want to change the rules. But I would be interested in what's the best approach to this. I think that, it would be great to have the input from the public, for the voters to speak. But maybe that's a longer term piece where in the short term during this administration, we could pass it a different way. And then when is the next charter review? Is it in 2 more years?
2 more years? Not far.
2 more years, and maybe then that could be part of the initial packet to go forward for consideration, as Councilor Reynolds said, with other items that could be part of the review at that point, so that we could handle this in a shorter term approach, gain input from the public on it, and then take a longer term approach when we get to that charter review. Thank you.
You're welcome. I don't think we have a motion or action, but any other council feedback, or should we just have no action and continue?
I think there is no action.
All right.
I appreciate everyone's input, and I
Okay.
was especially curious what Mark's input was going to be, because he was on the Charter Review Commission. And I respect everyone's input, but figured I'd put it out there because of what Jim said about the difficulty that we had earlier this term. I wanted to see what everyone's appetite was, so appreciate everyone's feedback.
Yeah. So then on to communications, petitions, proclamations, and resolutions. And we have a motion to file.
So moved.
Second, go for a vote. Counselor Dinsmore.
Yes.
Adnick.
Yes.
O'Shannell.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And myself, yes. Motion to enter, I'll just make the motion to enter executive session pursuant to RIGL 42-465A, land acquisition update from the Richmond Rural Preservation Land Trust. Have a second, please.
Second.
All right, can we go for a vote? Counselor Dinsmore?
Yes.
Madnick?
Yes.
Napolitano?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thank you. Are you good? All right, we are back. Can we have a motion to exit executive session, please?
So moved.
Second,
Go for a vote. Counselor Dinsmore.
yes.
Adnick.
Yes.
Napolitano.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And myself, yes. Motion to seal the minutes of executive session.
Motion to seal the minutes of executive session.
I'll second it. We'll go for a vote. Counselor Dinsmore.
Yes.
Adnick.
Yes.
Napolitano.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And myself, yes. There were no votes taken in executive session this evening. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I'll go for a vote. Counselor Dinsmore.
Yes.
Adnick.
Yes.
Napolitano.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And myself,